Tropical Storm Erick is about to become Hurricane Erick with big impacts on Mexico and big impacts through parts of Guatemala and El Salvador with rain in much of Central America. And I want to show you how much of this rain will try to lift up to the north to parts of Arizona, Texas, New Mexico. That's going to kind of feed right through Mexico, but it's this spot here that will become a hurricane. This is the fifth named system already on the eastern Pacific side. So we're going to track this. I want to show you the winds inside of this, how much rain, and then new tropical waves that'll be moving through parts of the Caribbean, plus the dust and the severe weather back toward parts of the U.S. But it's this spot in here just starting to get organized off the coast of Guatemala and El Salvador. There's some of the rain out ahead of it back toward the Bay of Campeche that will be lifting up to the north. This will be a strong system. Winds right now at about 50 kilometers an hour, or rather 80 kilometers an hour, or 50 miles per hour, but it's going to push 100 miles per hour with the winds eventually, or 160 kilometers an hour. So this is going to be a powerful system as it drives into Mexico. Elsewhere, there's been some spotty showers. Barbados, we had a couple yesterday and even overnight, and we'll see some new tropical waves that will be headed in. Let me start with this. This is the biggest thing, at least initially, will be that flood potential. Look at some of this rain. Southern coast of Mexico, we're talking about anywhere from 250 to about 300 millimeters of rain, 10, 12 inches of rain, 14 inches of rain in some spots sliding in. But then we look back toward parts of Guatemala, even as we work our way into El Salvador. I'll expand out all of these views in just a second. We're going to get some spots around 100 to 150 millimeters of rain, and even watching Belize, where we have been drier than typical last month into early this month. Just on the back side of that, we're going to get some spots that give us 100 millimeters of rain or 4 inches of rain, 4, maybe 5 inches of rain in spots over the next few days. So thank you for sharing this information across Belize, Guatemala, Mexico, just to get the word out about this. This is going to be a hurricane, and it is going to be a huge rainmaker. It already is. Now, modeling has shifted a little bit more off toward the west, which is an agreement with what I'm seeing in the environment. I don't just look at the models. The models could be so off in some cases, but they've had a little bit more of a shift back toward the west. So this is going to scrape the southern coast and then eventually make landfall of Mexico even longer. It'll be a longer duration rain event, and then the winds will be increasing. Speaking of which, how strong will this get? Well, these are those squiggly lines out in time. This green shading in here, tropical storm force, this yellow shading, category 1, this kind of orangey shading, category 2, which it has a chance of becoming that. I do believe it'll be about a category 2 hurricane. Winds again around 100, 105 miles per hour-ish, give or take, once it makes landfall. This is 12 hours out, 24 hours out, 36 hours out, 48 hours out. So 2 days of strengthening into a hurricane before it makes landfall with very strong winds. But again, the rain, the huge threat with this. Taking a look at the weather lab here as we swing into some of the new AI models from Google, and we take a look at some of the European models, the ensemble, and looking at the deterministic model, just kind of overlaying all of this out on time. Everything has been in generally good agreement, but I do expect these models to shift a little bit more overall back toward the west. That's the trend we're seeing with high pressure, especially building in. Everything showing the strengthening. Again, winds up to about 100, maybe a little higher. Everything showing the strengthening with this system as it kind of works in the next few days. Throwing on some other variations of the models, a lot of squiggly lines, but a lot more of those have been a little bit more to the west. So as this works in, I expect a bit more of a shift off toward the west. Here's that cone as a whole. And then we'll see that rain lifting in and then lifting up to the north out of that. So those hurricane watches, warnings, all of that good stuff, that's going to be up along the coast of good stuff in the bad sense of the term, up in toward the southern coast of Mexico. The flood threat will be persistent. Since this will be a relatively slow mover and kind of skirt to the west, it is going to continue to throw more and more rain to other areas of Central America. So let me show you this. This is the American model in line line with pretty much everything we're seeing with the European, the German. I was watching the Canadian model and what I'm seeing in the environment. So here's the core of the system, but on the backside, just throwing this rain into Nicaragua, Honduras, Belize, Costa Rica, and Panama, and then we'll see this surging into Mexico. Spotty showers and storms. How about Jamaica yesterday? We had a couple really strong ones with gusty winds in spots, hit or miss in Barbados as we go throughout the day. So still across the Caribbean, if you get a storm, it could be strong because there's so much heat energy out there. Now, this is by tomorrow. It will be, Erick will turn into a hurricane. You can see it here. Very well-defined system. Strong winds hitting the coast. We'll see those tropical storm to hurricane conditions along the coast of Guatemala and moving into Mexico. Backside still throwing in that rain to Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, and then watching new tropical waves sliding into the eastern Caribbean. So taking it day by day here, and then I'll show you the winds inside of this. Let's get into a Thursday here. Now, early to midday on Thursday, this will be making landfall right into Mexico. So through the day in the southern coast of Mexico, the rain out ahead of it. See how far north some of that rain gets. Here's Texas. You could see the rain working in. The hurricane conditions much of Thursday, southern coast of Mexico, still on the backside. There's that persistent flow throwing that rain in place. Honduras, Nicaragua, Belize, still in Guatemala and El Salvador. And there's some new tropical waves popping up near Trinidad and Guyana. Now in Central America, again, this rain is life-threatening. The flood threat is high. Mudslides, very dangerous rivers for days and days to come. And then as we work our way into Friday, the core of this system hits the high terrain, no doubt, of Mexico. Weekends, but look at that rain moving into much of Mexico proper. We've already had some of that rain, the flooding around Mexico City the last few days. We're going to see more of that. More rain through Central America and a new tropical wave on Friday, moving into Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, St. Vincent, the Grenadines, and Grenada. You see how active it is. Not seeing development here, but again, watching Erick and what's left of Erick, the remnants. Look how they start to squeak to the north, and they start to climb up toward parts of New Mexico, Texas, Arizona, watching that. Another area to watch back behind Erick, and then watching this here, building again near Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, mainly south, more active weather. Sometimes the pattern follows itself for a little while. We've seen this over the last few weeks. Getting into Sunday, you see all of this moisture around Central America. Here's that feed pushing some of that rain into New Mexico, parts of Texas, western Texas. This here is getting tied into a front, but these are the remnants of Erick at this point this weekend. Not seeing development here near the Cayman Islands, Jamaica, and Belize, but watching this spot. And then look at that moisture feed into the southeastern Caribbean. So we could be seeing another flood threat for parts of Trinidad, watching Grenada, St. Vincent, the Grenadines, and Guyana. And then by Monday, you see some of that moisture pulling into parts of Texas with the remnants of Erick still wet throughout much of Mexico. Heavy, heavy rain throughout parts of Central America. And there's even more rain by early next week. This we'll watch closely, not necessarily for development, but the brighter colors tell me we could get some heavier rain. So giving you the heads up, thank you for sharing this information across Trinidad. While the rain chance overall has been down a little bit, we're going to see it going up again in that flood threat on the horizon. Now, looking at the winds inside of this, here's kilometers an hour and miles per hour. You see right now we're looking at winds at about 80 kilometers an hour, 50 miles per hour, right in the core of this as this develops. That strong flow through the Caribbean just piling up the rain in parts of Central America. As we work forward, you can see, by the way, this flow coming into Texas, that kind of very warm flow, that's been really heating up around that area of high pressure with that heat dome that has been in place. Now, by tomorrow, we're going to see those tropical storm to hurricane conditions starting to work in late in the day near the coast of Guatemala and Mexico. You see the reds popping up. Those are winds of 110 kilometers an hour, or about 70 to 75 miles per hour. And then you see some of the yellows here. So we're going to see some of the winds around 145, pushing about 160 kilometers an hour. So we're looking at about 90 to about 105 miles per hour as this moves in on Thursday with those hurricane conditions. Here's Acapulco, watching very carefully as this moves in. Heavy weather making those hurricane preps right in through here, and then of course hitting the higher terrain. So right as this moves inland, it'll really shift into that mudslide and flooding potential, since the winds will of course get knocked down by the terrain as that works in. Now elsewhere elsewhere, you can see here, these are the tropical waves coming off. There's multiple tropical waves out there coming off the coast of Africa. They're running into the dry air as expected, but they're starting to hold together a little bit. They're going to fight off a lot of dust and dry air, but as they hang together somewhat, that is just going to increase the chance of rain back through the Caribbean. And then no doubt as we get deeper into this month and next month, we'll be watching out for more signs of development. But here's that dust today. Puerto Rico, we have some of the dust around. U.S. and British Virgin Islands, Anguilla, St. Kitts and Nevis. We've had some of that dust surging all the way back toward Jamaica. Even within some thunderstorms, we see some of that dust getting kicked around. And then as we work our way into this weekend, there's some of the dust getting pulled all the way over toward Louisiana, and another surge of dust that will be coming off by this weekend, coming off the coast of Africa. Now that severe weather threat back toward parts of the U.S., a lot of tornadoes around Minnesota yesterday. Again, still watching this pocket in here. Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, swinging all the way back toward parts of the plains in Colorado with that tornado threat. Watching this area here that's going to slide into the Atlantic region of Canada with that chance of some showers, few spotty showers possible tomorrow. But there's that severe weather threat even over toward the Great Lakes. Watching over toward Winnipeg too with that chance of some bigger storms. Isolated tornado threat. Still watching that flood threat. Again, the horrific flooding in West Virginia. We're going to see more rain that will be sliding in, especially by Thursday. New England, Mid-Atlantic, watching out for some stronger storms. And at this point, keeping an eye on that rain, how it starts to feed in. Watching this toward New Mexico, parts of Texas. We'll see some of that rain feeding in from the remnants of what will become Hurricane Erick. Now, seas, you can see them, how they quickly build here. Very dangerous stuff. No doubt this is by Thursday with that moving in. But things are going to be a little bit choppier to elevate it. Jamaica, south side, and then swinging all the way back through Central America just as these tropical waves work in. We'll see the seas building Central and Western Caribbean. Now, spotty showers and storms. Bahamas, Cuba, kind of hit or miss. Florida, hit or miss storms. So very hot as well. In between, there'll be a couple thunderstorms around. Same thing, Cayman Islands and Jamaica. Here's Jamaica, and you see the heavy rain just back toward the southwest as we work our way towards Central America. This is where we have some more of the dust. Not to say we can't catch a shower or two. Haiti, the DR, Puerto Rico, but this is where we have more of that dust and dry air. Montserrat back through Ceiba and Antigua and Barbuda, but some spotty showers. We had a couple yesterday around Barbados and St. Lucia. We'll see that again. So we could see a few totals over 75 millimeters of rain or an inch of rain, but as I showed you, down the road, more tropical waves coming. Flood threat starts to get higher this weekend and next week in the southeastern Caribbean, including Guyana and Suriname, where the rain chance has dropped off for some. That big moisture feed will eventually be moving in, but this is where it is just a mess, where we're going to have some totals over 150 millimeters of rain, over 6 inches of rain for 3-day totals, rounds and rounds of it. And I see this right into next week. Of course, this is with Erick. This core will work in, but we're still going to see more and more rain for parts of Central America. It is going to persist. We expect rain this time of year, but this is more than typical, and there's not going to be many breaks for a lot of us. And then we'll see this rain lifting all the way back through Mexico City, where we'll have that flood threat, and then we'll monitor how much of this lifts to the north. This in through here, parts of thunderstorms, kind of the tail end of front, monitoring that severe threat. Most of the severe weather would be just to the north of the extreme southern U.S. So an isolated shower storm. Again, in Jamaica, a lot of us are dry, some of us dusty. But if we get a storm like yesterday, it could kind of rock around, watching out for some of the gusty winds and some of the storms. Cayman Islands, we have a 20 to 30% chance. And you see by the end of the week how it starts to build, right? Trinidad, by Thursday, we're up to 50% chance. Spotty showers possible the next couple of days back through Barbados, St. Lucia. We'll hang on to a 40 to 50% chance over the next 3 days. 30 to 40% chance in Grenada, 40 to 50% chance St. Vincent the Grenadines. So southeastern Caribbean, some spotty showers, 30% chance today in Martinique, and a 30 to 40% chance the next few days in Dominica, kind of mixing in some of the dust. 30% chance today in Guadeloupe. We're looking at the rain chance lower as we get back through Antigua, Barbuda, just a 20% chance. That is it. 10 to 20% chance St. Kitts and Nevis and Montserrat. You see how low that rain chance is. Anguilla and St. Bart's, rain chance only 10%. 10% for the next few days. St. Martin, Ceiba, and Statia. An isolated shower or storm back through Puerto Rico. Not a high chance, could be a couple around, but hanging on to that 30% chance, and just a 10, maybe 20% chance, say over towards St. Croix, Tortola, St. John. St. Thomas, rain chance staying low. Bahamas, an isolated shower storm, very, very hot weather. Same thing as we swing back through the Turks and Caicos. Rain chance is going to stay limited. Spotty shower storm back through the Dominican Republic. So hot in the DR, back through Haiti. Rain chance stays low. The heat continues to build in. But Belize, you see the rain chance, it has shifted up and it is going to be sticking around. A 60% chance with us. Aruba, Curacao, and Bonaire, rain chance holding at about 20%. There's been a couple showers around for some of us the last few days. Guyana, 50% chance today, but building by the end of the week, and it will be building as well through the end of the week as we swing back through Suriname. Isolated to scattered showers and storms back through Cuba, monitoring that flood threat. Costa Rica and Panama, I appreciate your updates that you've been giving me in the comments. Nicaragua, watching out for dangerous rivers and mudslides, watching out for those rivers that are only going to get more dangerous. Parts of Honduras, rain chance staying at 70%, monitoring the flooding and watching out right along the coast on the Pacific side of Guatemala. Tropical storm to near hurricane conditions at times, especially as we work our way over the next couple of days. Very, very dangerous flooding that will be around. Spread the word about that, please. And then you see here across Mexico City, as what's left of Erick shifts to the north, that rain chance is going up. There'll be flooding in and around Mexico City later this week. Yucatan Peninsula, just a 30 to 40% chance, 40 to 50% chance in northern Colombia, 40 to 50% chance, but building by the end of the week in northern Venezuela. And rain chance as a whole staying generally limited as we work our way back through Bermuda. So watching Mexico, monitoring some of the rain that will try to shift its way up toward the Gulf, but more so, everything shifted a little bit more to the west as I was showing you, but that Central America flood threat for days and days. New areas of dust, tracking that, and watching the southeastern Caribbean with new tropical waves moving in. So thank you for getting this information out there. Be safe along the southern coast of Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, and much of Central America with that flooding moving in. I'll be monitoring that nonstop. Have a good day ahead.